My name is Radim Mokrohajski, and I'm basically the technical director and head of football coaching in here in our club. And I would like to share with you a few things and tips how to run your session really smoothly. But generally, purpose of today's meeting will be to help us coach kids. The target audience is from under 6s to under 12s. We'll go quite quickly through the presentation. There will be pointers in each point. I will comment a bit. Then at the end, I will open it for questions. And generally speaking, I will be really happy if we finish around 30 minutes. So not just in Balmain, but generally, what sort of player we want to create. We would like to create a player who has all sort of these aspects which you see on your screen. Now, the problem is, how do we achieve it? Everyone wants to have a player who can score goals, who is a really good teammate, who has all the technical skills and all the tactical abilities, everything. But now, how do we do it? I will share with you some tips which I was testing on myself and on some other players. I have been coaching football for over 8 years, and I reached UFA A license. I'm as well a school PE teacher, so I have quite a lot of experience from this field as well. So generally specifically information for football environment. So how do we conduct a session for young players? I will always put all the presentation on and I will quickly talk about a few points. So we want to start simple and build on it. What do I mean on it? We want to set up first incoming activity, initial activity, into which players, even though who come late, can really easily and swiftly join, and we can always build on it and we can always increase the difficulty after. It is not the best thing to start always with the most difficult exercise of your training as a first thing, because the players need to get a bit into the mood as well. Time to refocus. By that, I mean, we want from small kids to focus for a whole hour. Probably it won't happen. Be sure that you incorporate some drink breaks, some time for the players where they can chat, where they can have fun. And always is a good balance between having the focus on exercise, having a bit of a free time, again an exercise, and then let's say a game. We want to always engage all of the players. The best engagement for young players is if we let them own the activity, if we will let them figure out that they are doing all the decisions, that they are doing all the solutions to the game, that basically they are creating the game. This is exactly what we want to achieve. So we want to engage every player in exactly this manner. We want to have the rule, which is with kids, is always no, or literally the shortest lines possible. So even if you have some exercise where you need to incorporate lines, always you can double up the exercise, or you can do 3 lines instead of 1 really long one. We want to be really clear with our instructions. We want to introduce the rules and limits slowly. So what I would recommend to everyone, if you have a really awesome game which you want to do with your team, fair enough. If the game involves some difficult, complicated rules, definitely do not start with it. Start with something the players know. Start with something where you can slowly introduce the rules and then build upon it. We want to have age-appropriate training. So with that, I will help everyone, because soon on our webpage, we will launch a coaching platform, an informational platform, where I'll already put into points what I believe each age group should be achieving, and in each age group, what should be the focus. So by age-appropriate training, I mean that, let's say in under 6s, under 7s, or under 9s, probably there will not be such a high tactical knowledge of the game, which is really normal. So we want to ensure that make sure that the players are being coached by the way as they think they can manage it. So another pointer will be spend time on something. So if you want to teach your players new thing, you need to, I don't want to say waste, but you need to put some time on that. Let's say if we're doing in our development program some new skill, we won't do it once. We will repeat it over the next 3-4 weeks. We will always do it for longer and longer time. We will need to make sure that the players are accustomed to that skill, and then we can build on it, then we can move. What helps with it is a systematic approach, pre-planned video session. What I'm really not a big fan of is that I'm thinking that creating a session in a car when I'm going down. I want to, at least before the season, know what I want to achieve with my players, and then kind of put at least the topics, at least the session focus, and write it a bit down. That will be topic for another call or another meeting of us, so I will leave that alone. But definitely, if you want to teach your players new skill, don't be afraid to repeat it a bit. Don't be afraid to repeat. Oh, but always in a different form. Every game can be repeated a lot of times, only with different rules. We always want to have two goals minimum. We can increase the number of goals. We can increase the number of balls we're playing with. We can increase the number of players on one side. We can decrease number of players on one side, but the rules can stay more or less similar. So therefore, we're always repeating what we already know. We're building up on it, but we're doing it in slightly different scenarios. We're using graduation of difficulty. That goes well with the progressions and regressions of sessions. I will talk about it a bit later, but we want to be using the graduation of difficulty from a simple reason. Especially when players come from the school, they are not really focused from the first minute. We want to get them into it. We want to get them focused a bit, and then we're going to be starting with some more complicated exercises. Every player wants to hear that they learned something, that they done something well, maybe that they haven't done something well, but every person on the field definitely wants to be mentioned. Don't be afraid to say an appraisal to every player. Would you spot that this player done really well, even though you know it is not one of the strongest players of your team? We want to channel the vision of the players rather than shouting instructions on them. This can be really well seen on the match days, and you can, maybe you have done it yourself, maybe not, or you heard it, you heard some coaches calling on their players, all right, now pass the ball to the right, go along the line, pass it down the wing, and stuff like this. Instead, what I would appreciate that the instructions to the kids would be, have you seen Billy in a better position? Did you look somewhere there? Why couldn't you see him? Because it is you were standing on the ball, you were not looking before you received the ball. We always want to use the right language to the kids, and we want to be consistent with the language as well. So when you are training something throughout the week, you come to a match and you are all of a sudden commenting on something else, it can be really difficult for the players to put bits and pieces together. So be consistent with your message. What is for me really important when I'm coaching is flow of the session. So what I'm trying to avoid is to stop and start the session numerous times. When I set up an exercise, I want to let it go. I want to let the players feel the exercise. I want to let them do it. And then I will correct them after a couple of runs, after a couple of goes. For me personally, I think I'm a big believer that starting an exercise and finishing it after the first player touched the ball wrong is not the best way how to keep a good flow of the session. So by that, I mean, if you set up some cones and you want players to pass the ball from somewhere to somewhere before they develop the game or before they develop the situation further, do not stop it after every single not awesome moment you saw. Let it flow a bit. Correct maybe the individual player, but let the others go. In your coaching, don't avoid failure of your players. It is a really important part of the learning, but we don't want to set up the exercises that we let the players fail. So every exercise should be set that the players will be successful in the execution of that given exercise. We always want to make it difficult for them, yes, but we don't want to start the exercise that we let them fail. Yeah. So with that goes, do not overcomplicate and do not coach to fail. Organization is really important. Time management. So there is a really drastic example which I will use. Let's say when I was doing my coaching license, what the assessor did is he had 2 stopwatches in his hand. He picked a player. He didn't tell me which player it was, and he was measuring the time of the player when he was moving, when he was doing nothing. Now, by the percentage, what you want to achieve in ideal world, if you will be a professional coach, will be over 80% of the kid being involved. I don't think we can aim for such a high number, but definitely keep an eye on the time management of your session. So if you're training for 1 hour, start in the right time, have a quick break, get the kids back early, spend some time on the game. So we are definitely learning something. So we don't come down to the park for 20 minutes of football and the rest is just talking. Want to mention tiredness versus learning. What does it mean? The kids, When they're tired, they probably do not learn much. I think everyone can agree with this. So when you're doing some new exercise or want to learn new skills, the kids should not be tired. So when we're teaching something new, it should probably start towards the beginning of the session, not towards the end. Think like a kid. Quite often we set up an exercise which in our head is working really, really well, but the reality is that the kids are kind of looking around, looking at the plane and doing something else. Think like a kid. What every kid wants to do, what every young player wants to do. Not to be told like how they should pass. They want to score goals. So anything you do on your training, figure it out in a way that the kids can score goals. Either it can be in a game, it can be in a football game, it can be in a different type of game, it can be an exercise which simulates the game scenarios, but it definitely, everything should be finished with a shot on a target, or shot on a goal, or shot at a parent who is pretending he's a goalkeeper. We have 2 shoes on the floor, we have 2 poles from your equipment bag, anything you can come up with, but any exercise should be linked to a game by having a shot at the target. Then it probably will not be boring, the kids will be more focused, and they will stay with you for a longer time in terms of attention. Respect their age and attention, that goes with it. So exercises for smaller kids should be really dynamic, really quick, and they should finish with scoring a goal. Otherwise, it will be really hard to keep their attention for longer. Fitness and football. Quite often I hear from parents or coaches saying that the fitness of my players is not really good. Therefore, when they come, I will send them to do a lap around the field. For me, this is not the really right way how to do it, but if you feel like they need to do a run so they calm down a bit, why not? But get them a ball to their foot. Team them up, tell them that, guys, by the time you make the run, you need to exchange at least 100 passes. So always we want to have the fitness in the game. Just a quick tip, if you want to increase the fitness, don't play game 7v7. Play a game 3v3 maximum. You can have on the same space what you have on your training area, you can have 2 games happening in the same time, smaller number of players, bigger involvement, multiple chances to play, multiple chances to score, less time to think around and look for the planes. So definitely they are involved way more. Any exercise for our players I'm 100% sure that there should be always a ball included. If you by any chance missing a ball, or you lost the ball, or you need some ball extra, don't hesitate to contact us. I think we can help you with that. Job of coaches is to facilitate learning. So the best and easiest way how to do it, because the kids, they understand the game, but in a slightly different way than we think they do. But we definitely can ask them really guided and targeted questions to get the right answer from them. For example, there was a quick counter attack, the other team scored a goal. I will turn my eyes to the defender and ask him, why you think they scored? Do you think could you be in a better position? Where do you think we can stop the attack the best? Do you think is it the most ideal thing to run back 70 meters, sprint after the ball and then win the ball? Or we want to win it way earlier so you run less? So by really well guided and structured questions, you can facilitate the learning much faster than giving them instructions where to go, what to do, where to turn, and so on and so on. Quick one for the audience. You will definitely agree with me, but because if I say, if you have done something once, would you remember it? Probably not. So if you like some scenarios of some games or some exercises, you need to do it multiple times. With that goes that every kid should have not one go, but multiple attempts. Yeah, multiple attempts, do it multiple times. So always keep an eye on the time. Make sure that like the best way how to and when to finish an exercise is when you're satisfied with it. Even though you come to a session that you want to do 5 or 6 things, probably you want to achieve it, maybe stick to 2 or 3, do them slightly longer when you are confident that the player's done it really well, and then move on. Because it's really difficult to structure your training session minute by minute, because the kids will always do something which will throw off your planning. So don't be afraid to sacrifice one exercise rather than to use the other 2 in a better way, slightly longer when you feel that they mastered it. Don't be afraid to change the rules of them a bit so they are a bit more interesting, so you don't do the same exercise for 20 minutes. That's too long. But there is not a really good answer on how long an exercise should take. It depends what exercise it is, how the kids are involved. Are they still learning something? Is it too easy for them? Is it too difficult for them? So all of those questions are coming in place. One of the final points which I want to talk today about will be about progressions and regressions of exercises or the games. So by progressions, we mean we gradually increasing the difficulty. But quite often it happens that we set up an exercise and we're not really happy with how the exercise is going. Now we need to think of something which is called regression. So we need to maybe backstep it a bit. We don't want to approach the players and say, all right, guys, I don't think this is not really working, but you can definitely adjust the rules. You can definitely adjust the number of players. What I would really recommend to everyone, don't be afraid when you play your training games. Don't play them, let's say 4v4 or 5v5. Don't play even numbers. Play uneven numbers, because in a real game, it happens really a lot. That let's say 2 strikers are against 4 defenders. That maybe 2 defenders are against 5 strikers. And somehow they need to deal with the situation. Those examples will give you really kind of good examples of the exercises, like if they're working, if the players are learning really well, if there are some holes in your strategies, if the players should be guided a bit more or less. So definitely progressions and regressions should be a really big part of your arsenal when you set up an exercise and you know how to influence that exercise. If it's working really well, maybe I can make it slightly more difficult. When we're talking about making it difficult or easier, few things what we always want to play with is how many players we have on the field and how much time the players have for their solution, execution, and everything like this. I hope this makes sense, because if we're going to play 5v5, some players might not be even in the game. If we play 5v4, the 4 players will probably have it slightly harder, but my focus can be that if my 5 players can score a goal or not. I can maybe turn my attention more into some other details than I would normally do than if they play 5v5. Game application of every exercise. Why is that? We want to train situations which happen in a game. Therefore, we want to use something which is happening in the game. As I mentioned before, the overloads or the underloads, those happens really a lot. So I would not be afraid, even for younger players, even for more experienced players, to play 3 defenders versus 4 attackers. Yeah, so even if you have 1 goal, the defenders can guide only 1 goal. But again, if they win, give them some sort of objective what they should do with the ball. You never want to encourage your defenders just to win the situation by kicking the ball away or booting the ball out. You want to encourage them to do something with the ball constructively. What that is it a pass forward? Is it a short ball to their teammate? Is it a long ball to a coach standing somewhere on the other side? Is it a goal? Is it a score a goal somewhere on the other side as well? It is up to you to find out, and it is up to you to have fun with. As I mentioned earlier, every kid wants to score a goal. So if you want to make a session fun, really every kid will be involved. We need to think of how do we achieve scenarios where every kid will be scoring goals. So this is a really point which I would emphasize a lot. On every training, even though our aim is running with the ball, our aim is something else from the core skills or any other part of the game, you can always come up with a way that the situation will end up by shooting at a target, scoring at a goal. Put 2 parents as a post, keep them standing there behind. You want to put it in a goal. All right. At this point, I will skip this one, come back to it. Now, there's regards coaching, education, and the resources for everyone in our club. What I would recommend to you guys, if you want to learn more about the games, if you want to become a coach, we have a national coaching scheme in here down at the bottom. The easiest one, what you can do is grassroots football certificate. That will take you only a couple of hours. And the CDSFA, our Canterbury District Football Association, is running those. They are really great courses to give you an insight into coaching. If you are looking into more details, Football New South Wales have on their webpage folder for coaches, and there you can find more information. Other information for you available can be our YouTube channel, where during the COVID we uploaded a few things which are definitely usable for people. We have the virtual training where basically we are COVID safe in it. We have injury prevention program for players when they are returning after an injury. We have some specific folders for coaches. We have the training problems where I'm talking in front of a whiteboard and in front of a wall about some problems which you might have in your training session. I'm having some coaching corner. I'm having some tips always on the specific problem. Let's say in here you see a bit of a snippet. What we have? Match day, warm up, what to do with your team. This would be one of the coaching corner tips. Other one could be what comes first in learning if I want to teach my players. So I was trying to put it really practically and put you some information which you can find. Soon we will be launching our coaching information platform where not only coaches will be able to find some information, it will be for players as well, it will be for parents as well.